Today we're going to talk about types of bilingual programs that are offered in Texas. You can see them listed at the bottom of the screen: ESL, English Immersion, Transitional Bilingual, and One-Way and Two-Way Dual Language. Texas is ranked among the top 10 areas with the largest Hispanic population. We know that living in Texas that we have a high population of Hispanic and Spanish-speaking students. So the video we're going to watch just talks about those growing numbers and how they are going to keep growing as we go forward in the future.
The United States Spanish-speaking population is now larger than that of Spain's. According to a recent report by the Instituto Cervantes, there are now more Spanish speakers in the U.S. than there are in Spain. There are 41 million native Spanish speakers in the U.S., as well as another 12 million bilingual English and Spanish speakers, bringing the total number of Spanish speakers in the U.S. to 52 million. This population of 52 million is greater than the population of Spain and of Colombia, and is second only to Mexico, which has a population of 121 million. The United States Spanish-speaking population is expected to surpass Mexico's population within the next 35 years. The U.S. states with the largest Hispanic or Latino populations are New Mexico, California, Texas, and Arizona, whose Hispanic populations amount to 47%, 38%, 38%, and 30% respectively. According to U.S. Census Office estimates, the U.S. will have 138 million Spanish speakers by 2050, which will make the largest Spanish-speaking country in the world.
So you can see that the programs differ in the amount of time the student's native language is used in instruction, and we're going to talk about those. I know that in the area in which I live, we have a high population of Spanish-speaking students, that is their first language. In the school where my daughter attends, it's 50% Hispanic population. In the school where my boys attend, it's more like 75% Hispanic population. ESL is one of the types of programs or services that can be offered in the state of Texas. In my experience, it's a pull-out program at the elementary level where students in small groups visit an ESL classroom or with an ESL teacher and receive, English instruction or instruction in English. Also, the ESL teacher can go into the general ed classroom and give them assistance in instruction in only English for the mainstream classroom. This video we're just going to watch a small portion of it that really shows from the perspective of students that are seeking English as their second language, just the frustration that happens when they're in this kind of environment.
So we have a list of words. You need to
Should English be America's official language? So far, 28 states have passed laws making it so. But there's a big problem. There just aren't enough teachers to help immigrants learn the English language. More immigrants are settling in suburbs and sometimes have to wait months for an opening in an English class.
In one of my classes, one day I was asking a question. She couldn't understand me and she didn't know what to do. And I just forget about my question.
Sometimes when you sit in the class and if you want to ask some question and teacher answer you, sometimes you just speak a little bit fast, and sometimes say don't give any explanation. I mean, I understand, but without explanation it's a little bit hard.
For me, the hardest part was when they did give direction and specific math, because I know a lot of math, but I didn't understand my teacher.
So ELL students receive the same literacy instruction as the native English-speaking classmates. And this is simultaneously while they're trying to learn, their second language. So they're actually pretty much immersed into English while they're trying to acquire these skills like grammar, vocabulary, reading, speaking, writing in English. English immersion or structured English immersion is all subjects are taught in English. This is really less successful for an ELL's long-term academic achievement. You can see in the graphic above just the different populations by ethnicity, and you can see how large actually the Hispanic population is. And students in this program, they learn the content and the language simultaneously. Transitional bilingual programs, language 1 and language 2 are used in some combination. You can see the graphic here where what I call traditional bilingual programs are the only ones that I really have experience with in schools in which I've taught, where you start out at a pre-K level using 10% of English in your instruction and 90% Spanish. So where these students come in where Spanish is their native language or their language 1. And then you can see how you have that gradual transition to all English. So it's almost completely flipped by the time they get to 5th grade. The instruction is 80% in English and 20% in Spanish. Now, one-way or two-way dual language. To be honest with you, I'm aware that this goes on. It's actually, there are a lot of classes and a lot of schools that are doing this in my area, but I didn't have a real in-depth grasp of how exactly it worked. So I chose to, in addition to the research, to interview some teachers who do this just to get really kind of a practical perspective of what it is that they're doing in these classroom settings. So one-way dual language is made up really of students that are separated in their classes by their native language. So native Spanish speakers are together in a class and native English speakers are in a class. And the native really Spanish speakers are seeking English as a second language similar to the bilingual program in a one-way dual language program. Now, the principles of the two-way immersion, you can see these attributes that are listed here and the amount of time that they spend participating in this program. And you can see that one of the principles is the positive parental involvement. And that was really the experience that was explained to me, or that I see in our community, that parents are very receptive to this, whether their students are involved in this program like a two-way dual language program, whether they're seeking Spanish or English as their second language. You can also see in the graphic really the long-term effects or the achievement when students are taking standardized tests, and you can see two-way dual immersion really showed to be the most effective way to present this information or the instruction. Now, Gomez and Gomez, the dual language enrichment model, is really what is driving this instruction in the state of Texas. The schools in my area, this is the model that they use, the teachers that I interviewed, this is the model that they explained to me. So just to give you some quick attributes of a two-way dual language classroom, in two-way dual language, students are mixed. Whether English or Spanish is the second language that you're acquiring, they are mixed in their environment. They also are paired up with a student that the opposite language is what they're acquiring as a second language. And they also use kind of as a scale their language ability, whether they're high, medium, or low. So they pair really a high student with a medium student with a low student. So you don't have the deficit of a high academic or language ability student with a low, so that keeps the frustration level down. But they also rotate these every 3 weeks to a month, so students get to work with all the different children in their classroom, and they really look forward to being able to change and go through their centers and their stations and their units each 3 weeks to a month with a new partner. They also incorporate language of the day, and you can see where Monday, Wednesday, Friday, language of the day is done in Spanish, and Tuesday, Thursday is when English is, language of the day is done in English. Now, this can be used in enrichment type activities, a student generated alphabet, it could be read alouds, it could be your SSR time, but also the teacher that I interviewed, she said they use language of the day to reinforce the concepts that our students are learning in their second language, that they reinforce those in this language of the day portion, which they said in their classroom, or she said in her classroom, it was about 30 minutes a day. Also, in a two-way dual language model, they have small groups. And when they put the small groups together, there's about 4 students, and they put like a high, a low, and 2 medium language abilities students together in a group to work together. Also, like a typical daily schedule would be, once you're in second grade, when you're receiving English language arts, you're receiving it in English and Spanish, is that you spend an hour and a half with your mixed groups, whether English or Spanish is the language that you're acquiring as a second language, and you do English language arts instruction twice, once in English and once in Spanish. But what I found was interesting is that they do not teach the same concept simultaneously, because they do not want it just to be a direct translation of the concept or skill. So also, one of the attributes of Gomez and Gomez is a conceptual refinement, and that comes at the end of the unit. And really what that is like a reflection, and it's a reflective writing time where students that don't master the skill are pulled back into a small group. And so that's where that component of the dual language enrichment model comes in. Also, students that are in kindergarten and first grade, they only receive English language arts in their native language, and then they receive the other content areas in the second language in their L2. So those are just some of the attributes that I pulled out from the Gomez and Gomez dual language enrichment model that I feel like is the driving force for dual language opportunities in schools in Texas. So these are some graphics that I found that I thought explained perfectly why students are so successful using the dual language model, and whether you're acquiring English as a second language or whether you're acquiring Spanish as a second language. And the teacher that I spoke to today, she said that the progress that they see in native English speakers is so great that when they start this program in kindergarten, that by third grade, they can read in that second language that they've acquired and conversate with native Spanish speakers quite fluently, which I found was amazing and really exciting.